My guest today is Lenny Ricchiuti. Mr. Ricchiuti is representative of the City Police Athletic League, am I right? PAL.
The Albany Police Athletic League.
Correct.
Yep.
Okay. For some of my reviewers who perhaps not familiar with PAL, what is PAL? Tell us what is PAL.
The Police Athletic League, PAL, is it's a juvenile crime prevention program. It was established about 100 years ago. In fact, it was 2014 that PAL celebrated its 100th anniversary. In Albany, we started ours back in 1988, whereby the police, the community, youth all come together in a spirit of cooperation and growth, and to help develop good citizenship in our youth.
And that's the leadership. Who coordinates all of this? Does your representative have like president, vice president?
PAL it's a volunteer organization primarily. It's a volunteer board.
Is it a national charter organization?
There is a national organization.
Okay.
It's a national affiliation. It was started in New York City, like I said, in 1914. They were having problems. Imagine this. Back in 1914, they're having problems with youth hanging out in the corner with nothing to do.
No kidding.
So
and now we're 2016, we still have the same problem.
Go figure, right?
Okay. Right.
And the local beat sergeant, a guy by the name of Sergeant Flynn, was approached by some of the shop owners and asked about, what can we do to get these kids off the corner? And this guy went and started a boxing program, which is why boxing is synonymous with PALs around the country. Boxing is actually an Olympic. The PAL boxing championships are an Olympic qualifier for the Olympics. So over time, it's taken different forms and as is not so focused on athletics now, for instance. So we have after-school clubs, computer clubs, dance programs. We also have the athletics, but it's become more versatile and more enriching. A lot of enrichment experiences, various recreational, educational, social activities. But
so is that the mission? I was going to ask you, what is the mission?
The mission of Albany PAL is to help develop good citizenship in our youth. And so that they can grow and become productive members and caring members of our community. And
how does PAL work with the other community organizations? I would imagine that, because I know in New York City, where I'm from originally, boys clubs probably serve some of the same purpose, I would imagine. Well, there's certainly, we work very closely with the Albany Boys and Girls Club. We work closely with the YMCA. We work closely with the City Recreation Department. So we have a lot of collaborators out there that we work with. Certainly, we all know there's enough children out there that need services, and not every service can be available in every community. So whereas maybe in the Delaware Avenue area, there's a Boys and Girls Club, up in the West Hill section, there's a PAL Center. Over in North Albany, there's a YMCA. So we kind of complement each other in the neighborhoods that we're serving in. And then we also, all of us, pretty much provide various programming through the school district and through different schools in an after-school environment. So there's certainly enough kids out there, looking for services. Enough parents that are looking for some help. Our after-school clubs are all at capacity. No kidding. After-school. Yeah, is there a fee involved with after-school programs?
Like most of the providers, we have a sliding fee scale that based on what a parent says they can afford or not. No one's turned away. So, we do have some parents coming, we have some youth who come from a different environment where both parents are working and they can certainly afford a fee, and they pay a fee. And then we have kids coming from a family situation where it might be a single parent household, one person working, a couple of kids. They can't afford those traditional fees that are associated with it. That's how we do all of our programming. So same thing might apply to youth basketball. Our basketball program, we have 24 teams. We have over 200 kids.
Oh, you have 24 teams?
Yes, we have over 200 kids playing in our basketball program. There's no fee. Whereas typical basketball programs, if you're playing on any of these AAU travel teams or any of those types of programs, it's hundreds of dollars to play. So it's a matter of it's partnering. It's everyone realizing that together we can make this work.
Do you have more boys than girls participating in the program?
There was a time we had more boys than girls, and now I bet you it's probably pretty close to even.
Yeah, and do you think that has to do with the programs that you offer? Because now, 20 years ago, you weren't offering courses in computer science.
Well, it's funny. One of the first things, it was probably 20 years ago when we first offered a sewing club. And
that got over well.
Well, what happened as the police department demographics began to change and you started getting more females in the department, we had the female officers coming to us with their likes and what they did. And that's pretty much how we always started a program, based on what a volunteer had an interest to do. So we had a female officer come to us who loved to sew. And we went out and we bought 6 used sewing machines and we started a sewing club. And we were teaching kids, how to quilt, how to make bags, how to sew, how to knit, you name it. I mean, I don't know a lot about sewing, but
well, I do.
We had the equipment.
I was telling someone a few minutes ago, that's one of the things that I learned from my grandmother when I was growing up. She taught us how to sew and how to cook and, of course, to clean and everything. But today it's a different climate, it's a different time. Really. How do you get volunteers? You mentioned volunteers. So,
well,
are there any kinds of requirements for someone to be a volunteer?
There obviously are some requirements based on they have to be able to pass a background check. Everyone has to have a background check.
Okay, that's the point
nowadays.
I was making.
Yeah.
Okay,
nowadays, everyone has to have a background check. It's required by law. I mean,
what precludes someone from being a volunteer?
Depends on what comes up in their background.
Okay.
Everything's handled case by case. Obviously, if someone had an offense in their background that would,
if it's a child molester, you don't want the person.
They certainly can't work with our kids.
Be director of your youth program.
Exactly.
Okay.
So, we do have situations where now and again we will use some volunteers who have had minor infractions, minor infringes, and depending on the work they're doing. So, for instance, our holiday lights in the park, we get a lot of volunteers who want to help set up, want to help put up displays, want to help work nightly, stuff like that. So they're not in a circumstance where they're going to be around young children, left on alone, unsupervised. So we can have those folks help, in different situations.
Well, what about mentoring? I think that's so important when you're dealing with youth, particularly kids who come from underserved communities.
Yeah, our mentoring program is very successful. We offer mentoring 3 nights a week, and then we have a Saturday morning program as well. That one.
Are they matched up 1-to-1, mentor versus mentee?
Our model, the National PAL model is based on a maximum of 4-to-1. We try to go 1-to-1, but as you can probably imagine, we have more kids than we do mentors.
Absolutely.
So we have more mentees than we do mentors. So the model that we use, which is approved by the Office of Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention, allows for a maximum of 4 kids with an adult. As far as that mentoring.
And how do you do
atmosphere.
the assessment in terms of matching the mentor with the mentee in terms of, I would assume, for instance, if I was a youthful person and I needed a mentor, how do you do the assessment? I guess that's...
We try to make it fun right from the get-go. We do like a speed dating. At the start of every program year, at the start of every program year, the kids come on a certain night with the mentors that are available for that night.
Right.
And they'll all go around and have some conversations with each other. They get 3 minutes to sit and introduce themselves and tell them something about themselves. Then the little chimer will ring and they have to get up and rotate.
Oh, no kidding.
And they make their notes, and then at the end of the night they get to make their choices, 1, 2, and 3. And the mentors get to do that as well, because it's important that they get matched up with who they think they have something in common with. And then we do our best to try to correlate them and make sure that they match up. And so far, knock on wood, we've had a lot of successful matches, and a lot of kids and adults have gained some tremendous growing opportunities, because I firmly believe the mentor gains as much as the mentee in these relationships.
Absolutely, and that was one of the things that, in terms of, and I said I was going to raise this question with you before we went on the air. Is there a role that PAL could play in bridging the community, the tension that exists in some of the communities we have? Is there I know PAL may play a role in that, but can you look at it? Is there something different that you can do today that perhaps maybe you didn't consider 5 years ago?
I firmly believe that we don't, in Albany, have those issues that they have in some of those other cities around the country, at least not to the degree.
Right.
For certain, there's going to be individual personalities, regardless of whether it's the person in the community or the police officer. There's going to be individual personalities that will never be able to want to agree to disagree.
Okay.
You know, but for the most part, I believe that the relationships, and having done it myself for 27 years as a police officer in the city of Albany, you know, when no one knew what to call community policing. I mean, don't forget, they just started calling it community policing in about 1992, 1994. That was under President Clinton when that whole philosophy came about. But if you've been around Albany for any length of time, you would remember the neighborhood unit.
Absolutely.
You would remember those guys in the sports coats. That's who I grew up with in the South End.
And we don't have that anymore?
No, you don't. Well, you have different renditions. You have neighborhood engagement. You know, it's police work is cyclical. They just rename it. You know, it's, you know, obviously it makes sense that you want to be close to the community, and any police administrator recognizes that as a good philosophy to have. And I firmly believe that every police officer recognizes that too. I don't believe any police officer comes to work wanting to have conflict at work.
We would hope so.
Who wants to go through their day? I mean, you go to work wanting to have conflict?
No,
you know,
no. But I've worked with people every day who are just miserable. Of course not. You know, so.
Well, that's just it. And we all are entitled, I guess, to have that bad day.
Correct.
You know, but like I said, back to the question, I firmly believe we've been helping with that you know, issue. 28 years ago when we started our program, it came to Albany under the leadership of Chief John Dale.
I know John Dale.
And John was a great guy, great leader. Right. And John, we had our true advocate for PAL, Art Mitchell.
I remember him as well.
Art Mitchell was the guy who stood up and said, we need this in Albany. And Art benefited from the program as a kid growing up in Harlem himself. So when Art explained it, and Albany was familiar with the PAL program, but not enough so that they would make that next step. Art Mitchell was one of the catalysts to help get us to make that step. His relationship with then Chief Dale and then Sergeant Wolfgang was what allowed us to push through, and thus the community members came together. Art Mitchell, Reverend Dixon, John Wagner, Harold Rubin, different folks back.
He was the builder here, right? Rubin, I think he was.
Rubin was the president of CANA. The Council of Albany Neighborhoods. So when they looked at putting together that original group, you know, who you wanted to have to be a good cross representation of the whole community, and you know, it was Reverend Dixon, it was Father Lefevre, it was Art Mitchell, it was John Wagner, who was a merchant on Lark Street, it was Harold Rubin, president of CANA, it was several police officers. All these folks came together in the early formation years, and then they started reaching out to other folks. They reached out to me. I was a young rookie police officer, but I was involved in the American Little League at the time down in the South End. So, you know, I was a young police officer, very active in the community that, you know, they didn't know that I grew up in. You know, I was born and raised in the South End. I never left the South End. So it was to them.
Were you in the South End before they built the plaza?
Yes. I was born and raised in the South End.
Does the street still exist that you...
I lived on Grand Street.
Oh, you lived on Grand Street?
Yeah, we lived on Upper Grand Street, and then Reverend Brewer built a community center right where we moved to. We lived on Grand between Morton Avenue and Arch Street. So we were right there. It was the Youngs, it was us, the Ricchiutis, the Westerfelds, the Hedspeths. There was a bunch of us in that neighborhood.
So you think by living in the inner city, if you want to call it that, did that make you a better police officer as opposed to someone that's, say, living in Colony, Glensball? Your experience of living in the community, and I assume based on your experience living in the community, did that serve you better as a police officer? Well,
I think it definitely helped me better understand what people go through. Because I lived it. You know?
That's the point I was trying to make. Yeah.
I went to Giffen. You know, we wondered where our meals were going to come from sometimes. You know, you know, we played on the same streets together. You know, and through my police career, as I got older, so did my peers that I grew up with. Got older, and some of those relationships, like anybody growing up, are maintained. Some are not. And throughout the course of my police career, you know, I would run into some folks that, you know, I remember you remember me, and it would help. It certainly would help to strike up a conversation. Again, I mean, you know, you don't go into a situation looking to make it worse. You go into a situation looking to make it better.
And people who are youthful offenders, people I know, you deal with juveniles, so obviously, what can be done to reduce the recidivism among people going in and out? Because I know you travel around Albany and you see everything.
Yeah, that's a question that obviously has been plaguing society for a very long time, and if I had the answer to that, I probably wouldn't be sitting here with you. I'd be doing something else somewhere else. But I certainly think a big portion of it has to do
education is key.
With education is a key.
Absolutely.
Empowering people, as you know, you have to empower people. You can't enable people. You have to empower them. You have to give them ownership. They have to feel like they're part of the solution for themselves. They have to feel like they're able to succeed and make things happen. And everybody has that ability to make things happen if they're given the tools or shown where the tools are at.
Funding. I know we're going to talk about the Holiday Lights Festival, which is a huge fundraiser.
It's probably your
major fundraiser of the year.
Yep.
And but do you receive any other funding? Do you get any city funding, federal funding?
We don't receive any funding.
No funding at all?
No,
it's because the money isn't available. It's just that.
I would say for sure across the board, fundings for programs like PAL have become more scarce in the last 15 or so years because of things in our world. Things have changed in our world, and government dollars are going other places.
Okay.
We've had wars going on. We've had a number of
what about state funding?
Tragedies.
The federal government, I can understand.
We've had a number of tragedies. The state funding, we do try to find dollars wherever we can, but less than 10% of our dollars are government
raised by
dollars.
government.
Yeah.
Okay, it's private funding.
Yeah,
okay.
Those grants, the requirements just even apply for them are usually so.
No kidding, cumbersome that you can't.
Really, when you're talking about a small organization like ours,
how small is your organization?
We have 5 full-time people.
Oh, okay.
And that's including me and a maintenance guy. So there's not a lot.
And where are you located in Albany?
844 Madison. We're in the former Vincentian Institute High School, right in the corner of Ontario Street. We have a great facility there.
How long have you been there?
We've been in the building since 1995 or 96. We took over the building in 2010. The city used to run a community center there, and they vacated it. And
And your services are provided out of that building?
That's our base of operation.
Okay.
That's our base of operation where our administrative offices are, and we do have programs there as well. Obviously, we have a gymnasium, we have a dojo, dance studio, computer room, etc. But we use other people's space better than we use our own space.
And you don't do during the summer months. I know kids. I was thinking in terms of raising funds, and you probably thought of all of this. Parents doing certain kinds of volunteer activities. I've known people raise money through picnics and festivals and concerts. You have artists to volunteer their time.
Yeah, we do some smaller fundraisers throughout the course of the year. Some of the fundraisers are spearheaded and led by some of our youth groups. We do have some high school programs. Those youth are encouraged to be a little more outside the box and come up with ideas and how to sustain their program. They're given that ability to run their program, manage their budget, etc. So it gives them that independence, gives them that ability to make those decisions that they're going to have to make as they get older and become adults. They're able to make in a controlled environment where they have an advisor to their group and help them make some of those decisions and or mistakes.
Oh, okay. I'm going to ask you about the Holiday Light Festival because that's really one of the reasons why you're here.
Okay.
And I think it's important that we raise some money for the Boys Club. And do you provide Santa Claus in some form or fashion to the kids?
So the Price Chopper Market 32 Capitol Holiday Lights in the Park, this is our 20th anniversary.
Oh, 20th. Okay.
20th year,
okay.
Our platinum celebration.
Oh, okay.
And, for sure, a good part of what we do all year long, we wouldn't be able to do were it not for this event. As we say, we light up the holidays so we can light up the lives of our youth all year
Absolutely.
long. And that's basically what we're allowed to do with the continued success of this event. We couldn't fathom for a minute that the show would become what it's become today. When we were first pitched with this idea of running this event, we were told that the average life expectancy is 3 to 7 years.
3 to 7 years?
Yes, in any community. And this is our 20th.
Oh, gee.
And we're working on our 25th anniversary already. It's like, what are we going to do for 25? You know, how do you get bigger? How do you make it different? How do you make it better without changing things? Because there's only so much we can do in our footprint. You know, so how do we change displays? What do we do here? And we've been undergoing that for a few years.
And what have you changed for this year? How is this year different from last year?
Our finale is all new. We have an all new grand finale at the end of the.
And what does that mean? Because I haven't had the pleasure of experiencing the finale.
So you're the guy we're looking for. You haven't been through the lights in the park?
I have been through the.
Oh, you have. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
So at the end, we have an all new finale, which is animated. It's choreographed.
That's different.
The lights and the music are all choreographed, and I don't know if you've ever seen any of the different YouTube clips where the houses are boom, 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 you know, that type of stuff.
With projection stuff and okay.
And so that's what we have at our finale this year. We invested about $80,000 in that grand finale, and you know, we're getting great feedback on it, and you know, we've also for the past 5 years we've been renovating our own displays, making them LED, which makes them more vibrant, more colorful. We've been adding animation to displays that we can, which obviously changes the appearance. And you know, we're investing in our show because we have to. We need to make sure that we maintain that long term.
And how does it work? You purchase a ticket and you. The cost of the experience.
Yeah, it's by the vehicle load. You pay
by the vehicle load.
Yeah, you pay. Yeah, so however, if you're coming with a car,
I can pack my car with
as many seatbelts as you have.
Then I can get the same price
as many seatbelts as you have. All right, we don't want to see you have a problem on your way to or from the park. All right, but you know, it's based on the number of seatbelts in your car.
Okay.
Let's say you're driving a typical car is a 7-passenger vehicle. So you have 7 people in it. It's the same thing as.
And what's the price of the ticket?
It's $20 for the car.
Oh, $20 for the car.
$20 for the car, and it's about a 2-mile drive through the park as you serpentine through the park, through the carriage paths in Washington Park, around the lake, up the hills. You know, it's and the thing we have that they don't have in some of the other shows. I've been in a number of these shows around the country, and I mean, it's almost like Washington Park was designed and laid out for our show. Because it's every hill you climb, every turn you make, every tree you go around, you're seeing something new.
Right.
And we call it the ooh and ah effect. The kids are in the back seat, and you could almost, even if you're not in the car, as that car is driving through, you could hear the kids going, ooh, you know, just and which is what you want.
So you get in the Disney experience. It's like you're being in Orlando.
Exactly. I like that. You mind if I use that?
Absolutely.
The Disney experience right here in Albany,
Washington Park.
We just can't give you the 70
But I think
degrees.
it's the ideal location simply because of the terrain, and as you say, and it's all about being in the car.
Yep.
Right.
It is a drive-through display. It's a drive-through show. Now, over the last couple of years, we've started adding some walk nights because people want to experience it differently. So we add walk nights because obviously we can't.
So you actually walk through the park.
We have walk nights.
Okay.
Yes, where you walk through the park. You can't walk when we have driving.
Okay, that doesn't match.
The two don't match.
Okay,
the two don't work.
A
lot of liability with that. You know, we used to a good 15 years ago, we would allow that, and then we had an accident. It only takes one incident, and we just.
Do you sell food and drinks and stuff?
When you get to the lake house, the grand finale, which you're going to come and experience this year. When you get to the grand finale, once you drive through the grand finale, you would park your car, come back to the lake house, and depending on the night you're there, there's different things going on. So on Wednesday nights, Santa's reindeer are out front. Each Wednesday he's got a different one of his reindeer there. I think this week he's got Dasher coming, just in case you know.
Well, Albany is a destination, I point. And what are the other things that people, if I come from Syracuse or come from New York City and I want to have this experience, I want to do more than just go through the park at the lights, are there other kinds of things in the area?
Without a doubt. And obviously people can go to albany.com and find out what else is going on in the region. But if you were coming down when there's a show going on at the Palace, or this coming weekend you got Disney on Ice going on for the next couple of days. So somebody may say, okay, we're going to go to the Disney show, we'll do the lights in the park, maybe stop at the State Museum. People forget that the New York State Museum is here.
Is that the kind of information that PAL would market or put out? If I was coming here, you have a brochure telling me what's going on.
We have some of that stuff,
today?
But our brochure directs people to the Albany Visitor Center, and it directs people to albany.com.
Oh, okay.
You know, we certainly can't we're not a clearinghouse for everything going on.
Well, no.
And we don't have that ability. Again, you need somebody to manage all that.
So that's where the coordination and relationship comes with other, I would imagine, other agents, if you want to talk about that, really. I'm getting the sign that we're probably going to have to wrap this up.
Okay.
And I want to thank you, Leonard, for coming in today and sharing PAL information and informing the viewers about what's available here in Albany during the holiday season, really.
Yeah, well, we'll be running through January 2nd.
January 2nd? Okay.
Sunday through Thursday, 6 to 9. Fridays and Saturdays, 6 to 10.
So you open even on New Year's Eve?
New Year's Eve, Christmas Day, all that stuff, yeah.
Okay. Viewers, I want to thank you for tuning in today and enjoy the holiday season. Eat good food, play safe, be safe, and we'll see you again on the ION. Thank you.
Volunteerism comes from a special place. But I also believe that it's something that can be implanted in somebody and it can grow in them. That spirit of volunteerism is definitely alive and well in Albany, and in particular for the Holiday Light Show. You know, it takes a lot of people to change 1 million light bulbs.
We first started, it was nothing in this park. We had maybe 30 displays around the lake. Took us a week to set it up, that was it.
We usually start the second Monday in October. We're out here, and we're out here for 30 days straight. It be in the rain, the snow, we're out here putting the lights up.
Believe it or not, the best nights we have here are the cold nights and the snowy nights.
I'm out here, rain, snow, sleet, or shine. We're always out here. We're out here working, and just can't let it slow us down.
The show's got to be ready. It's not a matter of, okay, we're running a day behind, we'll be fine. No, the show opens on the 18th.
Things like this will pull everybody together. When you see these kids come into this park, and it's lit up, and their faces are lit up, and their eyes are just glowing, and it's just it's so much joy they can't even react. It's just, it's the most beautiful thing.
Regardless of how cold it is, it's the warmth that's coming from within that makes us do what we do.